Yes. Hi, everyone. I recognize some faces. So I'm Fuad, and I'm I'm part of a community energy group in Teignbridge called Teen Energy Communities, and we helped set up another sort of more climate emergency, ecological emergency group called Action on Climate in Teignbridge, ACT. Um, so we provide support to them on energy and built environment matters. And that's my role within ACT is to try and coordinate that activity. So I think Emily explained quite a bit about sort of this whole thing about emissions from our housing and the retrofit needed. And I'm going to be try and be very sort of top level as requested. And then we can go into any level of detail you want. So I haven't got anything to share screen at this stage, but if we need to go into any detail, although I don't recommend it because it gets quite detailed. So I wanted to talk about what retrofit. Everybody uses the word retrofit, and so what does it exactly mean? And we've heard the term whole house retrofit. So how do these things all fit together, and what are the standards, and what is the market, and what are we doing about it? Clearly, it's important, and clearly a lot has been a lot of money, government money, has gone into doing this change to our buildings, both putting renewables on and insulation. You know, you all remember the loft insulation and the cavity wall insulations. They've been great in getting awareness, and they have made some improvements. But honestly, I mean, I've heard a statistic that 30% of cavity wall insulations have been problematic, and we have a very large old housing stock in the UK, and particularly in the southwest, and a lot of rural off-grid properties, older properties. So it's a particular challenge here. Now, I don't want to sort of go on about government schemes, and although it's important to say that they are very much aimed at attracting people to do retrofit by dangling some money in front of them. And unfortunately, that means that's the objective, is can I get free money and can I spend it with some installers? And nobody does the looking at where we live, what's good about it and what's bad about it, and come up with a whole house. So not a piecemeal retrofit. Piecemeal means to me like you say, oh, put an air source heat pump in. So everybody now rushes because there's money for air source heat pumps, so they go and put these in. But they won't work in a lot of the older houses. They won't work. They'll emit more carbon and they'll cost you more in running costs. So that's the bad news. Now the good news is that the government has actually produced an updated standard for retrofit, and it's called PAS 2035. It's only come out, I think, a year or so ago. And if you do changes to your building, you will have to adhere to that. Now, it's not yet for private properties, but it is for publicly owned, housing associations, things like that. So that's a requirement. That is a process. It is not building regulation. So that's slightly separate. So what it tells you is you have to start with doing an assessment, then a design, then you do the work, the implementation, and then you check it. And that's quite crucial. We've never had that last step. So it's a very straightforward process. It has, I don't know, it's about 80 pages or something. It's quite big. It goes into a lot of detail. But the point is that it's recognized that we need a standard to tackle this challenge. The actual objective here, unfortunately, is not zero emissions yet. Yeah, so I mentioned the future home standard, which is eventually going to get there, but at the moment, that's a kind of a long target, long way down the road. The standard for building materials and heating systems and so on is called SAP, which stands for Standard Assessment Procedure, I think. Yeah. So these are two terms. PAS 2035 is the process, and SAP is the standard. Now they're good, and there's nothing wrong with them, and they're used in assessing houses, so EPCs, which you've heard of, and they're used in retrofitting and building regulations. There is another standard called Passivhaus, which I'm sure you've heard about. This is kind of seen as the gold standard. That sets also targets, building targets. It does have some process associated with it, but the most important thing about it and how it differs from our UK SAP standard is it includes two important things: ventilation and moisture, in a very good way, which I have to say SAP and the inspections that we do so far here do not cover well. And that's why you get into trouble with retrofit on old houses. Okay, yeah. So this is where we are. So there are good standards coming up, but we need to make them apply to older properties. There are lots of projects and organizations that are doing fantastic work. And Emily mentioned the Carbon Co-op and their model of offering a retrofit assessment and design. Remember I said there are several steps. So the first two steps are crucial. So you do the assessment of the building to see if there are, what the heating requirements are and so on, but you include ventilation and moisture checks, and you then provide a design to address the overall energy consumption. And so that is what we understand under the proposition that Devon County Council is trying to put together for all of Devon, and the community energy groups within Devon are supporting Devon County Council with this. So where is he? I think Jody was, I spotted Jody there. He's on that group as well. And as Emily says, they've actually invested some money and they've recruited somebody. So it's really taking off. So we have high hopes that there will be a commercial offer for around £500. It's aimed initially at the able to pay market. So you get this package and it tells you what you need to do. One last thing I want to say is that this Carbon Co-op is one example. There are many other examples, and we actually within TEX have an example which we call the Energy Assessment Pack. We've been running this for many, many years. And we've recently added some functionality to this to provide this report. So we've done a trial with an architect and covered all of these things. And it does seem like it's possible to do this very well. You know, you get good information for around £500. And I think if we can do that and bring the costs down, we'll have something, you know, tenfold better than an EPC. For those who know EPCs, they're not fantastic. They're a national sort of almost minimum standard to assess things. So the numbers that Emily showed us, they look bad already, but actually they're probably even worse than what they look like in terms of the emissions from homes. So we need to do this, and that's the area we're working on at the moment. But we hope to have something by the end of the year. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. That was very thorough and very interesting. Yes, and obviously with our particular area, the old building.